Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 30 of Illium, our modded cities 1 build. I hope you're having a wonderful day. So much has happened over the last 30 episodes, and indeed we spend so much time looking forward in the build into ever-growing space, including the wonderful zoo from last episode, which sits so nicely on the left side of this hill here, that we rarely take much time to actually turn around behind us and see what's happened outside of live streams. So today we'll crawl over the whole city, change some things I'm sure we're likely to come across we're not totally happy with anymore, and tinker with any traffic that we come across, with some nice cinematics of the city's busiest hubs to be enjoyed today as well. And likely some few first-person tours. So grab yourself some snacks and settle in for a big crawl and review across the city. Well, happy Monday to you all, and welcome back to Illium, everyone. But before we get on with today's video, a quick shout out to our channel sponsor, Instant Gaming. You can find a link in the video description that does help directly support the channel, whilst in return getting great deals on all your favourite games, including the Cities Skylines franchise, Frontier games, and The Sims, alongside whatever other games you might like to enjoy. And also check out what's trending on the homepage for a great deal on the latest releases. Big shout out to Instant Gaming for supporting the channel for so long. Don't forget to check them out, and let's get on with today's video. So I'm going to leave the day-night cycle on for today's recap and review, just so we can see the city live and breathe a little bit. As we revisit the first starting town of Francis, lying on the south side of the river, of course, where everything started in Illium from our initial interchange here, which is still pretty backed up all these episodes later. Of course, I've spoke a few times about this now, about how we will reform this, I think, into a much larger configured, either roundabout or grander intersection, likely with many node controlled slip lanes, but this will be a 25 tile project. But we'll come down here to where we started the city, of course adding in lots of little details here in our street corners, which is really these bits of the city that make me just fall in love with it, you know. Love this sort of stuff. Grungy alleyways. Spoke recently about this on a city showcase we had. But then we'll come down the main street to our little strip mall here. Traffic around this bit of the city is a dream, but this is mainly due to the walkability of the quay walls, which again, a quick shout out to that content creator pack. Bridges and Piers is a really good content creator pack. Even though these are actually official keys, aren't they? But the concept was introduced in that pack. On our corner, we'll see a wonderful little playground tucked in amongst the schools and the services. Of course, we totally regentrified, or I guess redesigned, redeveloped, upscaled this initial neighbourhood because it was just low density housing, which felt really out of place, this close to the downtown. So I'm super happy with how we went about this. The ice hockey arena, which is introduced with a mod that allows you to place all the snowfall assets in no snowfall maps. And then of course we have all our office, which I think sits really nicely against the bridge now, doesn't it? Especially the African library. Big fan of that. Our Green Cities row homes settle in really nicely. Again, which is, I think, another testament to the versatility of Green Cities. Gives you a lot of different ideas to play with. Especially these little tiered things here as well. We should also be stumbling across our first transit here as well. Let's have a little look at how things are going over here. We have the underground metro station at 76 a week, which is really quiet actually. And then also the ferry stop, which does have a tree in it, at 211. And I think now all the resulting public transport back and to across the river is definitely taking the pressure off these ferries. Of course, we remember once upon a time when they were totally jammed. And we've also got a bus passing through here as well, the Francis Main Road bus. Which does have some busy vehicles. There's one here with 60 on it. But I think anything we can probably afford to reduce this bus size down, can't we? Currently operating a 70 capacity, which is probably a little bit much. So that's basically a little more than half it. We'll drop down to 30%. Wonderful little parks detail all this area through here. Really love this bit of the city. There's something about starting small that just... I don't know. I think I mentioned before, I love building kind of small rural vibes. I'll quite happily play a game called Rural Fields as opposed to City Skylines. and it's just a countryside builder. That would be my ideal. And then we'll come down to lots of little parks that lie along this waterfront, which are getting lots of use now. Countryside, fire station, little carousel on the edge here as well, which should have some pretty spectacular views across to the massively developed city on the north side of the river here. We can see the pyramid from Arus Hills. Lots of really nice waterfront action. Of course, looking all the way back to the downtown, which goes for miles now, doesn't it? We just about see a glance of the airport down this way now. Yeah, you see the metro bridge and the runways over here. There's so much has been built since this initial start. Some of my favourite detailing in the city, this as well. Just a little bollard expansion out the front of a church. Does a lot for it, I think, doesn't it? Our road coming up here is starting to get a little bit of use now. Of course, we plug this in. But I do envision this becoming quite a key arterial road eventually. Probably going off that way up the hill. And then also flowing into the next valley over, which is going to be farming space, because we're currently 30 episodes in and don't have a single farm in Illium, because we've been focused immediately on the high dense areas from the get-go, really. So that farming space is going to lie in these valleys at some point. 25 tiles there, of course. And then we'll come down to our main transit hub. Again, where we've got a little bit more metro, which is nowhere near as busy this side, 101. Still only 5 through this intercity bus station. And I guess it still just has the one stop. This will get busier, I hope, with that farming valley kicks in, because we'll be able to send more buses out right now. There's not really too many places for them to go over here. And then, of course, another one of the Illium ferry stops, rocking 227 people a week now, which is easily one of my favourite bits of the city here. Really glad we'd lent heavily into the monorail and ferry vibes. And then as Francis tapers off, we'll enjoy lots of behind building detailing. Again, a testament to how powerful the airport apron can be. And then some really nice behind building car parks here. There's pedestrian pathways to make these alleyways walkable. Which again adds such a lot to your city, doesn't it? Look at that. Local man walks dog through alleyway. Is what makes your city live and breathe, everyone. And then we come on to what was our first kind of major roundabout system here. Some light intersection marking, nothing too dramatic going on. It got significantly more dramatic in the downtown intersections, didn't it? And then this comes up to Grove Hill, which is at 4 stars now. And of course we had a vision one day here of having industry visible from every section, didn't we? Which I haven't forgotten about. I think certainly here, or line up a factory to sit on this shore, industrialising all this coastline here around the rail yard. I think it's going to make quite a lot of sense, isn't it? And then that really brings an end to the town of Francis, of course. Really nice build. Such a small, quaint little town that will definitely grow, I think, to the other side of the highway at some point. As to what that makes up, I don't know. Maybe this episode here can be just a whole comment section of ideas of what can lie within the larger 25 tile spaces, because I'm not super inspired for a lot of them yet. I haven't really spent too much time looking at them. So when I do come to find inspiration, I'll come and check the comments of this video. So if you want to leave something as to what should sit on the left side of the highway from Francis here, do let me know down in the comments below. Which then, as we appreciate the first sunset, brings us into the Southside industry. We'll start with the forestry area, which is really one of my favourites. I love the big central processing configuration here, orientation of now filled lumber yards just next to the arterial road here. I think in the foreground is very impactful, isn't it? And pretty decent industrial traffic, although Illium does run rebalanced industries, so it's not truly reflective of actual industrial traffic here. But I always love forestry, right? The base game forestry coming in ham here. Props to enjoy all around the edge of that. With all our processing tucked in as well, of course, with sapling fields to enjoy the orientation of the highway. Isn't that gorgeous? I really love that. Hopefully it doesn't get too dark on YouTube. I know YouTube compression really darkens videos, so I'll try not to spend too much time here, for example, during the nighttime sections. but certainly lots to enjoy over here, right? So, a nice little industry, and we mentioned we will expand the plantation fields on the hills as we need to expand industrial demand, because we will create some jobs by putting down more plantations here. Look at that view. From the port mill to the downtown skyline. So wide, isn't it? I feel like the size of Illium has possibly snuck up on us more than any other city has, you know? Then back to the start of the city, we have our little train station plaza. People walking around. And then we've also got more metro down here as well, haven't we? With some pretty busy traffic here. It's just about backing up into the port. And is that actually... is that a lane math issue that's causing that? I think it is, isn't it? Let's go ahead and upgrade this one here. So we have power issues at night? Yes, we do. Hold on. Let me quickly spam down more geothermal power plants, everyone. It's pretty clear. A dedicated power station build is probably needed very soon. I am totally lost. Here we go. Over here. This is my city. Yeah, we'll let the buses carry on in that bus only lane. See if they want to use it. Even though everyone else is using it besides the buses. Don't you just love CS? And we then have an old factory here, which I think renewed history might function very nicely in this port now. Possibly something to consider. Where we do have some basic starter industry, a couple of new power plants, some forestry processing, and garbage in here as well. A little bit of a forestry port, of course, the wood vision. Train export and import available immediately nearby. With more timber storage and then some industrial evolution also down here. With an asset that's actually burnt down, which I kind of don't mind that. I might just leave that there, you know. I think I might just leave that. Dirty old destroyed port building. Then all this flows, there's mixes of like self-storage vibes using industrial evolution as well. Coming into sewage processing. And then finally some bus and public transit service buildings. With a fun little ramp taking us up into a beginning of an outer lying suburb again with who knows what is going to lie on the other side of the highways here. Further plans down this way, we do have a rail yard which is definitely going to be expanded at some point. Probably into further industrial vibes. We'll probably put the power plant down here, I imagine, that we just mentioned. And of course we also have to prepare a train connection in the 25 tile space so we can send a train to Francis from the downtown station. It's not currently connected that direction. So that'll be a lot of fun to see one day, and we'll make a wonderful first person tour, I'm sure. Once that comes in. And hello train traffic. Oh, you're all despawning. Oh, you're getting stuck on the tracks. You are, aren't you? You all doing that? Yeah, okay, let's fix this. So this is happening because I have used the 4 lanes, or the 4-lane tracks here, essentially. So I'm just going to use network multi-tools unlock segment here. As that obviously hasn't worked overly well, has it? They're getting stuck like that. That functionality in, but obviously the trains hate it. The trains hate my idea. You happy with that? Back to what you were? Although it was actually 4 lanes in the middle here, wasn't it? Sorry, so I should correct that. Put that in. Change the middle node to a bend. And then we want to use network multi-tool to relock those segments. There we go. Well, has that been happening since I did that? That was ages ago since that happened. See, this is why it's good to review, because there can be things that have gone wrong that you don't know have happened. And a nice little screwy of walking people just to celebrate. There was trains coming back through again. Our forestry trains leaving as well. All that timber. Very thematic, that, isn't it? When you can see it from here. With wonderful detailing over to enjoy there as well. So a really nice southern half of the city at least. And we'll be certainly revisiting Francis and the wider area for further development once the 25 tile space is open. Either way, let's hop over to the much more densely populated northern side of the Straits of Illium So our first stop back over on the north side, we're going to come back to Sapphire Marina, which is named after one of our wonderful tier 3 patrons, as was Francis, by the way. Shout out to Rich. But yeah, really wonderful execution, I think, of nightlife using network multi-tools parallel mode to create marinas, which do need some lights on them, admittedly. But this is our first example of how we really leaned into monorail, allowing it to span over the harbour, fully integrating into all the other transit systems around here, including metro and buses, which we'll see plenty of examples of around the hubs in this area, at least. But to give us a grander view of where we are in the city here, the Sapphire Marina sits just off of Arus Hills, the vast green cities district. And this really is one of my favourite bits of the city, which I'm sure I'm going to say a lot today. But we used intersection marking tool to decal paint our pedestrian roads. Network multi-tools parallel function to create these wonderful little marinas using the content creator pathways. And the boats come from the hotels and retreats to DLC as sub-buildings via Find It if you're wondering where they're from. Nice DLC, to be fair. I don't mind hotels and retreats, I just don't like the mechanic behind it. I love all these little marinas. And of course, the icing on the cake is the big monorail blade right over the marina, isn't it? Coming between the buildings. Such an impactful design, that, isn't it? And of course, with a brilliant view over to the skyline there. Big fan of that. That might be today's thumbnail, actually. We'll see. And then this continues with hotels, both of the DLC and After Dark variants, with walkable plazas in the foot of the towers. Car parking space. And a really nice, walkable, realistic beach, which is only made using surface paint actually, which is quite interesting, isn't it? You know, you can literally do this with just one mod. This one simple mod made my beach. It's skylines. Just removing the texture of the pathway, and then we have people walking on the beach. As we can also enjoy the monorail pulling in, for which we'll see how busy this is. I imagine this will be one of the busier ones. 164, it's not too bad. It is getting some tasty use though. I'm quite happy with that. There's also a little London bus coming through here as well. Let's check out what ridership this gets. Yeah, this one's pretty busy actually. We've got 87 people sat over here, which is a little far away. They will be collected at some point, I imagine. And then this leads us into green cities, commercial, general outer-lying, medium density beach vibes here. Which then spills into the big green cities district that wraps up most of this hillside. And before the arterial ends, where we're currently waiting to build this will be a 25 tile build, expanding into the star fort. The back of the pyramid will also open up, I imagine, with a lot of pedestrian pathway bridges over the highway here. And of course, this also links up with the current dead-end tram, which hasn't gone anywhere yet. So I'm really looking forward to this build. It won't be too long before we take this on now. The 25 tile projects are getting closer every week. But yeah, really love Sapphire Marina. It's a great little bit of the city. Over toward the entrance of it, we did once have very bad traffic through here, which is totally cleared up now. I think it was mainly just due to the lack of the 2-lane road here, which has certainly helped move things along. And then from this, we also have fishing wharfs. And then further down, we actually did this on a live stream, so if you don't watch our live streams, you wouldn't have seen this. But so we just built a little strip mall out. There's activities and planters and bollards down the beach. With really nice views to that monorail marina. Doesn't that look great? Love to see that. And then over here we'll also find some custom gas stations using Move It and building spawn points, which I really like, right? Such an authentic little corner detail, that, isn't it? Electric car charging down here as well. And then we did more of those marina designs, the boats and the pathways using parallel mode to create our little marina space here. So let's hop into the next town of Arus Hills, but I think why don't we instead take a journey on the monorail blade down to the next hub, which is where we'll start exploring from. which brings us into Wieszala, a larger transit hub in the town of Arus Hills on some pretty gnarly terrain, with one of the busiest hubs in the city here, lots of plaza and key arterial roads, taking people back to the express highway systems on the roundabout we looked at near Sapphire Marina, and then further into the downtown space as well. So I really love the road layout of this theme. Now, a lot of questions I get on CS1 is how do you plan and keep it, don't use the word realistic because I'm sure some people would interpret it as not realistic, but arterial road boundaries really help me divide up a city into individual developments, knowing that I want a transit hub against this arterial road. That then lets me feed in metro lines and monorail lines into these areas, which further divide up different boundaries for me. I guess the ultimate advice in how do you make a city look realistic is the road plan, I think would be the penultimate advice I can give on that. Either way, we got a ton of really spicy transit action over here. So 319 on the underground metro, this is going into downtown as well, alongside nearly 700 at the monorail bus hub, which is wonderful. This will easily hit 1,000 a week once we get more bus lines in, which are likely to go that way, I think, because the rest of this side of the city doesn't need any more transit. I've massively over-prepared it. So we'll send buses out another direction one day. And the wonderful plaza here, again, all walkable. I'll always chime on about this. Makes a big difference, doesn't it? Statues of Jerry Sr., wealth statues, lots of landscaping and plazas, emergency services, offices, and lots of emerging downtown in this space as well. I love this hub. Great excuse to use this building, which we don't see very often at all. Heading up and away from this, we'll come up hills into Arus Hills, which is made up of lots of suburbia. Parks in tens of different combinations all the way through here. Integrated death care. Again, big shout out to the Hearts of Korea death care asset. Really makes it look like some sort of art museum without having, you know, actual billowing human ash out over the suburb. Which brings us on to the main arterial up to the Arus pyramid, which comes back down to this major intersection here, which does want to be intersection marked. Sounds like a live stream job, that. And then we'll follow it uphill. Of course, as we mentioned, this will grow out into a much larger secondary park on the back of it in the 25 tower build. But a really nice way to use the Green Cities pyramid. A couple of little green lights on there as well to embellish the Green Cities theme here. Of course, when we built this, we spoke one day about just a really nice view to the downtown, which is finally in now. It actually looks like the downtown's complete from here, which it isn't. It's only about halfway done, probably. Seems to never end, downtown Illium. But incredibly proud of that view right there, mate. That looks so good from here. I love how we can see the terrain, all these lights dipping and bending and curving over the hills. Really not a flat city by any means, is it? Possibly the hilliest downtown I think we've built. Rannox was really flat, as was Orchid Bays and Newbie Oaks as well. And I really like how it came out. Down here again, it's wall-to-wall, green cities, service buildings, education. Many different vibes, with big chunks of green cities residential. Again, using the terrain to shape the roads, trying to blend curves with box and grid. Quite a nice little suburban road layout, this one. Then we have our little park here, which people still aren't visiting. I don't know why. I guess there are people on the chessboard here. But I think they might be permanent chessboard residents, though. But, yeah, I'm not sure why, because the gate is actually connected. It's not showing disconnected, but no one ever comes here. Which is fine. I guess they just hate the park, but I like it. This road then brings us down onto the couplet system, which I'd like to point out here at some point was the high-speed national highway, which you can track the couplet on these two roads. Yeah, this was once, you know, this road, the main road that comes with the map, but we've downgraded it all into drivable couplet, so we can zone on it and people can walk and cycle. And I was quite worried about this, to be honest, when we built it, because I thought, well, that vast amount of highway traffic that travels on these roads, just passing through the city, isn't going to stop. But I guess they've found alternate ways, or the traffic flow systems have integrated into downtown, or at least keeping them moving, but we'll get there. And then over here by the waterfront, looking back to the south side of the river, we can enjoy trams, which I can't imagine too many people stopping here. Literally zero. They will at some point. And then little green cities markets also flourish in here as well, of course. The market tents and the dirt paths are always a distinct vibe with green cities, aren't they? Definitely one of the favourite things to do with that pack. This flows all against the couplet before we approach really our first instance of medium density. With green cities apartments, commercial, and then into really one of our first hubs, which is one of my favourite ones. Here we've got a blending of trams, monorail, metro, intercity bus, internal bus, and ferries. Really small, compact hub. That's getting some really nice walking scurry. Didn't expect this to be as busy as it has, but you can really transfer across the whole city here, back to the south side of the river, without having to take the road bridge. And of course the monorails go in all current directions from here. I guess west and further north back to where we just were in Sapphire Marina and Wieszala. Over to those districts as well. We'll check out each of these stations. 212 on the underground, 326 at the monorail, 162 at the bus station, and 234 over here with the trams. Getting some decent ridership, not as busy as I would like them, but I imagine the monorail and the metro steals quite a lot of those riders from it. But great scenes. Who doesn't love a perfectly centralized transit plaza? One of my favourite things to build. I love the orientation of all the assets here. We've got the tram depot involved, there's a supermarket on the corner. Of course the intercity station itself is turning up here. And then all this spills onto walkable quay. Detailed back of commercial buildings. You can sit and enjoy a pint here with the cruise liners going by. Views to the redeveloped Francis across the strait, of course. One of my favourite parts of the city. We do have some monorail clipping. We should really sort that out, actually. Is that zoned? I wonder if it is. There's a perfect 4x2 asset in there in the shape of the bookstore. I'll run with that. I imagine there's a few instances of monorail clipping, such as the Big Bite logo getting clipped on its way through. Yeah, all this commercial sits under the monorail, bringing us back to the couplet system, which again, traffic is an absolute dream down this. You know, considering this is National Highway Road. Very nice. So I think a lesson to be taken is don't be afraid to really integrate the actual highways that come with the map into the city infrastructure. Because it turns out it works, and I was very panicked it wouldn't. This then brings us into the Minor School of Excellence, our first campus featuring the Pyramid of Safety, inspired by something we saw in a city showcase. Also got some of our little stairs over here as well, which I do need to redo. I think I just want this as actual pedestrian road rather than a pathway here. Looks a little bit ridiculous in hindsight, doesn't it? And then lots of little layers to enjoy here. Slight little stair keys, which are functional. You can see there's a pathway here, but I don't think anyone actually wants to take that. Which is fine. Probably a waste of a node. But it's okay. And then there's lots of practice pitches integrated here at the foot of the athletics arena. The monorail out of Wieszala station comes down here as well at 111. Stopping here. There's campus hospitals, landscaping, which brings us back to a couple little slip ramps on the couplet system that heads back down to the bridge junction over here as well. And then we use emerging downtowns as perhaps a reference to some older dormitories on campus, since the new, more modern dorms have come in. And a walkable police academy. So we've got pathways cutting through under the sky bridge here, bringing us onto a super pathway that links us back to the bridge and the monorail station over here, which they do stop here and use this. It is technically connected to ground inside the station. So I really like how that works. Service point detailing directly under the bridge, which is these spaces that Anarchy really allows us to get into. So I love this. There's lots of little pathways and layers all crisscrossing under these bridges here. Bringing us into the stadium and another ferry stop, which we'll check out the ridership on. 246 on this one with 135 on the underground metro by the Brassac Arena. And a big shout out again to Brassac, wonderful Discord mod and long-time friend. I appreciate all your support, Brassac. Thank you for your patronship, my friend. And then towers with walkable plaza here before we really start spilling into the downtown district, which we'll get to. I think really we'll come on to check out our big chunky residential districts here on the edge of town before we get stuck into the city centre. Our next suburb here, just set off of Sapphire Marina and the internal high express couplet system, is Plymouth Slopes, named after our wonderful patron, Dan Plymouth. Thank you for all your support, Dan. Appreciate it, buddy. A mid-century modern suburb that flows uphill and will likely expand around the rest of the mountain slopes in the 25 tower builds as they open up in the not too distant future. But really nice ideas here. Terrain suburb with hilltop parks, big box commercial by the arterial, and plenty of bus service over to this bit of the city as well. So coming down, we'll enjoy the sunset, I think, from Plymouth viewpoint over the now complete downtown skyline. And I remember building these chairs here thinking one day, these people will have views to the much wider and ever-growing downtown district. Isn't that great? Really nice views from here. But again, it's a park no one cares for. I think maybe it's too high up. They don't. They just don't care for actually visiting this park. But coming down, we'll come back down to the custom gas station couplet system on Sapphire Marina here. To enjoy some big box vibes, we've also got buses stopping here. We'll check just how busy these are. Yeah, not too bad. Again, there's possibly an argument to be made we don't need a bus this big, because hardly any of them are full, and there's not that many people waiting at the stops either. But it's okay, it gets use. We have a shopping mall here from Lenovo with expanded cafe detailing on the side. And then the Mall of Moderation. Before we come into the actual beginning of the Hello People pathway, of course, which has become so famous in Illium for being relentlessly walkable, and it never really stops here. It's just constant madness all the way into the city centre. Of course, which we will get to. But that pathway does come down and start here. Then a lot of the hillside away from this initial service centre is just mid-century modern homes. Luxury homes with pools, which again these guys probably have just about some glimpses of the skyline from their back garden. Which gives us a really nice looking cityscape, doesn't it? This whole district flows with the terrain, with a couple of entrances back onto the couplet occasionally. And back up to the power plant, or the big factory district here. It basically is a power plant now, after I've spammed it with so many assets. But a pretty simple residential district, nice outer-lying hillside suburbia, which then bleeds into Box Heights, the big Brooklyn and Queens district we see here, which is probably my favourite residential in the city. In this episode we referenced actual tenement blocks in Brooklyn, which is a lot of this walkable pathway with kind of fenced-in gardens, really. I think it came off really nicely, quite authentic to what you would find in Brooklyn using the Brooklyn Queen assets. It just flows, doesn't it? We can take a couple of these different turns. And you get these little apartment entrances there. Like, yeah, I live in Prince Tower. I can pull in here and go to floor 4. Big fan of it. I think our best execution of the Brooklyn and Queens residential so far. And then there's some more traditional big 4x4 blocks of it in this way. Parks and entertainment, commercial, death care, schools. Another little stop on the Hello People pathway, which we'll see what we're doing here. Only 86 on that underground metro. And then this is the same bendy bus line that's going back over here to these ones in the corner. Looks like producing an incredible amount of walkability for us. Alongside a little doubled up shops with Shibuya Plaza. Which I really like how this looks here, right? A lot of fun. Very small retaining wall. Before the Brooklyn and Queens residential picks back up again in loads of different formations. You've got row homes in here. Brooklyn-style Park Tower block tenements. You know, big cube blocks of mass housing for people living in cheaper, perhaps social housing in the city centre. And then we'll pick up the arterial road that takes us back to the Wieszala Plaza and Arus Hills in the university here. Again, another large intersection, probably due some node controller through here, I imagine, at some point now. And then, sorry, intersection marking tool on the corner. And this is littered with unique commercial. Walkable pathways again at the bottom of these assets. Fusing of King Leno's malls into official unique buildings. Delivery space detailing behind the commercial. Which I think adds so much to an inner city space, doesn't it? Rather than just ramming the back of this building with just more zoning. Just a bit of respect for what's on the asset. It even works on the back of this one as well. You got these little like back entrances for staff or delivery personnel. It's up there with kind of grungy alleyways, I think, for me, for creating a realistic city space. And then there's some more vanilla housing here as well, breaking up the row homes. There's also some emerging downtown row homes present on this street. So tons of different styles of residential. This is easily, I think, the densest residential patch in the city, this whole area here. Thousands of people living in this space. And all tremendously well served via public transit, although most of them seem to be taking the Hello People pathway, for which we will get to. This lever then opens us up into kind of central downtown, really, which is just a whole beast on its own. We have back to where we left the big bridge interchange at the bottom of the stadium. We can enjoy, I think, yeah, well, let's do... What's the next stop? Let's take a first-person tour up to the junction, shall we? Right into the downtown city centre. From the start of the monorail line over here. The tram plaza, I think. Which drops us off right in the middle of the downtown transit hub, which we'll enjoy plenty of views around here in a moment, but tons of convergence here. Metro, trams, over and underground metro, alongside ferries and tons of buses. Possibly the busiest hub we've ever made. I think it's certainly up there with Rannoch's Central Metro Plaza for the most amount of walkability we've got in the city centre. Again, which is massively fueled by the Hello People pathway. I'm sure there's tons of people walking from the financial district sector into this bit of the city. So we'll start with our central train station, which is rocking 1,000 people a week now. 340 at the bus stop and the ferry exchange, nearly 600 at the monorail, and then another 200 coming through the metro tram hub. So pretty much 2,000 people a week moving through, which could be a lot more if we go ahead and get more metro on this, because this line's extremely busy here. This is the one going into the Central Park. Let's wait for a train to come through here. This should be our Airport Express metro. We'll see if he makes any dent in this. No, not even remotely is he making a dent in that. Let's have a look, shall we? Holy crap, yeah. So there's 500 sat waiting at the airport metro. Wow, okay. 600 at this one. Got a feeling, everyone, we might need a slightly bigger metro car here. What are we on at the minute? 150. The Airport Express is only 180, which isn't really that much, is it? I think we'll go for the Railroad of Japan metro train then. The 500 capacity ones. There you go, that made a dent in it, didn't it? Yeah, look at that. Okay, well, I want to see all these people unload. So we'll follow the metro, which weaves all the way through the buildings in downtown. Maybe my favourite metro line ever, this one. It will have a first-person tour one day, don't worry, of the completed line, because it isn't finished yet. And hello, people, look at that. We're going to keep following it, because I want to see where the rest of them go. I wonder if they go into the Gentrified factory district from 3 episodes ago. I love following trains. Really do. I imagine they're going to get off here. Yeah, look at that. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Hello, people. So the glory of Illium's interconnected transit systems, everyone really coming into fruition now. Yeah, that's feeding so many people into the park area, isn't it? How much is the park earning now? Yeah, a ton. Might even want the ticket price up full. Brilliant. Yeah, look at them all. They all just scurry off through the zoo then. So most of the people in the downtown transit hub are taking the metro out to the central park, which I really, really love that they're doing that. So great stuff. We've managed to clear that backlog there as well. Although it is quickly refilling already, isn't it? Wild. one of the busiest glassbox stations we've set up, I think. Briefly visiting this area of the downtown, we have a ferry hub over here, again, which is plugged into the monorail system and the bus line, currently pulling in 314 into this district. And then more nightlife marina action, and all up against the couplet system here, which flows through the heart of the city, into our big financial district area, which has some of my favourite street views. I think there's something about old stone corners on the street corner that just looks so nice. Same with this building here as well. And then lots of plazas through here. Our balls, fountains, bringing us into the main financial district plaza itself over here. We just have an underground metro, which isn't pulling too many people. Again, I think because the hub is siphoning so many. But only 56 through that one. One of the quiet stations in the district. Towers here, the conclusion of the Hello People pathway as it lands back in the financial district area. And of course the monorail slicing all the way through this too. Which I just adore. Really like this bit of the city. Building anything downtown is always my favourite, I think. Having moments ago just said I prefer rural fields to city skylines. But then we come on to the major continuous flow intersection, which was a beast to set up, and I think really gives us that thick downtown road infrastructure, doesn't it? It's very over the top, very American. If you don't know what this is, the continuous flow intersection removes the left turn from the center of the intersection, so there's no conflict here, passing over. Instead, the left turn is taken before the major intersection here. So you turn off left exactly as this car's just done. So as he turns left, he's not conflicting with these cars coming from north to south in this orientation, right? So you go here as this next traffic sequence flows. Any minute now. So there's actually 8 connections into one node here. There you go, and then those guys take that other exit off. A really fun intersection, and it adds so much chunk and girth, I think, into the downtown city centre. We'll revisit the bow tie intersection a little bit later on as well. Another one of my favourite views from here in the downtown space is the view from the central station up to the city centre, especially with these monorails passing back and to in front, right? Isn't that just a tremendous amount of fun? Really love all the layers here, so many different buildings. Testament, I think, to the variety of assets you can get in the official pool. If you are a bit of a DLC queen like myself, I do like my downloadable content. Which you get a lot of fun new buildings with it. So I love this. Then of course the central downtown space is made up mostly of skyscrapers, green cities, Hearts of Korea uniques. There's lots of plaza detail to stumble upon on the internal areas. Same with this little district down here as well. We did on live stream. Adding in underpasses where Illium's gnarly terrain really helps us develop some more, I think, intimate areas of the city, if that's the right word to go with. We've even got some next to hotel detailing here as well, leading people up to the main deluxe hotel in the downtown. And I'm really happy with the grander crawling height we've got in Illium. There definitely will be some more towers, I think, to feature, but obviously nothing taller or as dense as this. But it's really wide, it covers a massive space, and has loads of different builds in it. Transit hubs, campuses, these very dramatic fused monorail hubs here inside the Jangbisoft building, which only fuels the Hello People pathway even further. This is the path that links us down to where we were, coming out of Box Heights. So just... I can't remember anything busier than this in the 7 years we've been making videos together. This is probably the busiest it's ever gotten. Probably ever will. Don't think we'll beat this. But I just love it, right? To bask in the, I guess, the aura of nighttime Illium is a real pleasure. With episode 30 as well, the public save file is updated, so if you want to come and explore Illium for yourself, you do need any DLC that adds a network. So for example, if you don't have bridges and piers, you won't be able to load the city because you don't have these piers and they are networked, so it will crash. So if you want to load in Illium to come and explore it yourself, you do need pretty much all the DLC, just as a bit of a heads up. Onto the waterfront section of the downtown. It's mainly more of the same. High density commercial and uniques with lots of tourism vibes, science centres, libraries, plazas. All backing onto this big train corridor that cuts right through the city centre. Love to see that. This will be so busy as well one day once we have those outer line towns to send the trains to. Definitely something to look forward to there, I think. And this comes down to more hotels, some fusing, which we were inspired by in the city showcase, mid-century modern and a skyscraper spliced together. And with plazas repeated, busy airport metro going back to where we just arranged it in the central hub. And this comes up all the way down in dense combinations of vanilla commercial, shops with Shibuya, Hearts of Korea, all embedded in here. With angled aquariums, and then down to a secondary train station, which we did have a few people comment during the airport station. There's only 2 people a week on there. Is the monorail any busier? 78. Metro's taking the bulk of them, isn't it? Yeah, I had a lot of people ask why I didn't put a train station by the airport, which it would have made sense, I agree, with the train tracks right here. But we already have monorail, metro, and bus. So I felt like a train station just wasn't particularly needed. And it is, I guess, just down the road if they do want to take it. But clearly, the metro is the order of the day, because this is insanely busy. How much is this moving a week now? Have a little look. 0. Of course. It looks like 0 as well, doesn't it? I think we just maybe missed the restart timer there, did we? So yeah, really love it. Coming back into the downtown space, we'll enjoy some views of the campus, which again is using the older style theme. The liberal arts red brick roof buildings, which is really what I wanted, a bit of a historical campus and stadium as part of the downtown district rather than a separate build. Which I really love the view of this particular stadium, especially as a levitating man walks across the pitch here on our right side of the screen. So yeah, brilliant. So happy with this campus. Came out exactly as I intended it. And again, it's a nod to the terrain here not being remotely flat. There's retaining walls, hills and slopes tucked into all these areas. Orientation of our important laboratory and media lab buildings against important street corners. Same thing again over here as well. So just an awful lot of fun. Everyone knows how much I love a campus, and to have it embedded into the downtown where we can also see that monorail. Again, just splicing through all these towers. dropping people off. With big important views of the financial district over here. So I think this is probably the most elaborate downtown we've put together on the channel. Everywhere you look, there's just another sightline to enjoy. You can see the Central Park on top here as you're coming down the main arterial road. And before the one-way couplet system kicks back in. Where you can see how it splits off here from bi-directional road in the city centre back to single one-way couplet on the south side of the couplet here. So a lot of fun road planning. Again, it's those road planning episodes that allow me to develop the spaces like this because it gives me the boundaries in which to design. I guess I think you've just left with a vast open space, like if you tried to stick a downtown, just like in here with no prior road planning, it can be really hard for my mind to judge the scale of it, I think. So planning is always your best friend, I think, for creating a city space. So I really love this whole area. Love downtown Illium. We'll grab these builds on the right of the hill, then hop over to the airport side. Next to the campus, we have really an expansion of the skyline, more high-density residential and office towers, with retaining walls, pathways, giving us those authentic alleyway spaces. And then it kind of falls to medium density and then back to low here, and giving us something of a crawl, I think, up into the skyline. There's more metro and bus convergence here. Check out our metro, only 54 on this one. And then our school bus is moving most of the people. We've got 80 people sat over here. But yeah, it's not too bad. They will get cleared. There's a few spaces left on those buses just yet. But lots of nice suburban landscape in here. We really saw the introduction for the first time as well, properly, of the emerging downtown row homes, which is certainly my favourite row home solution now. You just get such a unique vibe here, don't you? The emergent downtowns pack is probably the best of all the content creator packs. Just because it gives you like realistic, almost workshop style assets. Which CS1 has lacked for. A lot of the official assets can be quite kind of cartoony, a little bit video gamey if you like. But my word, do the content creator packs help with just adding in a touch of realism. Great stuff that, isn't it? Around the back of this we'll find commercial detailing. Airport aprons and props to respect the back of those commercial spaces, with a couple more campus building integrations in here too. And we'll also notice that metro line, which is the one we just followed out of the downtown space here. Which ties us back into Plymouth Slopes on the edge of the rich district here, really completing the bulk of the low density downtown residential districts. We then come into the much more industrial sector of downtown Illium, using the factory here and the recently added Gentrified factory park as a nod to the fact of saying these were once older, more industrial buildings, but now sit as a gentrified factory park, exactly what it says on the tin. Repurposed old industrial buildings to be commercial and or residential, whichever theme you want to run with a big functioning factory next door to it. Real difficult area of the city to develop this one. When I was building it, I almost thought, well, the factory is too close to the downtown, but the factory park next door to it really allows us to transition quite nicely, I think, into much more recreational space. So as we revisit the old factory district, there's a small outbreak of fire, which is fine. But some storage vibes here, distribution, fusing of industrial evolution to sit with the factory, which has its own little fleet of delivery vehicles, and using sensible concrete space to elaborate fusings where we find them, the fish factory. In this particular instance, alongside a currently non-corrected train line, there's not too many people coming down here yet. I imagine we'll have some significant more industrial infrastructure down this train line to at least make it a little bit more used. Might also change the warehouse out for a cargo delivery point, so we can have cargo trains coming in and out, which might be more appropriate, to be honest. We'll see what happens as we develop. There's also a little metro station in here for commuters with the computers, 122. Coming through that with lots of prop work through here. Timber. Power plants. These power plants on the left are just temporary here, just to give us the power we need. Will eventually be deleted to accommodate an eventual power plant build at some point. And then this transitions across the couplet system, again, which was high-speed highway at one point. I think it goes back to this section. And then into the gentrified factory park, which is, again, one of my favourite areas, but because it's shiny new DLC, right? These are the new toys we get to play with for a little bit. Which I really like how this came out. Lots of modern, commercial, red brick. The monorail really adds quite a lot to it, doesn't it? Back at the busy metro station and monorail combo we just saw a moment ago. With people coming into the park. Yep, another massive delivery of people coming out here as well. People heading back to the airport, of course. Or the city centre. And then this comes up into very much old factory spaces, perhaps now memorialised as, you know, this was ye old cotton mill, what is now a organic coffee shop or something hipster like that, you know. Lots of vibes. Some older buildings through here as well before we transition back to functional industry. Perhaps this is, you know, on the planning sheet to be gentrified at some point. But as of now, is still operating as an industrial site. So really my first time experimenting with the renewed history pack. Really love how this turns out. People taking the pathway up to the top of the central park now, which is the build we'll check out next. Coming back down to the city centre here, lots of walkable green pathway, which people are now using. The monorail in the figure of 8 now also comes to stop up here too. Yellow and green monorails are the mirrored figure of 8 loop around the downtown. And then we've got lots of parks here, little botanical gardens, showing off perhaps some more exotic trees. We have cafes and actual botanical gardens in here. Birdhouses, playgrounds, which then takes us up onto the next layer, which comes under some retaining walls up to a tram plaza, which still isn't that busy, I don't think. Yeah, literally 2 people using it. I might reroute this tram at some point, I think. You guys have been asking for trams in this area. So I think what we might do is bring the tram line down here, remove this, and then send it down this way. Possibly down the hill, that's very steep though. Maybe back onto the arterial and down this way. We'll send the tram, I think, as a bit of a redirect. Over here we'll also find the amphitheatre unit building, which is a sub-building from the actual central park asset itself. And I really love how this turned out. Elaborating it along the back with crowd control detailing. Some fences here for people getting in to see the theatre. And with appropriate backstage delivery prop work here going on as well. Which again, similar to what we spoke about with the back of the supermarket earlier, respecting what comes on the assets can lead you to creating some really authentic spaces. Wonderful views to the airport and its relevant district over here too. As the sun sets behind our skyline. With the concert arena, which thankfully there is one on, as we happen to be here. Great little viewpoint that, isn't it? Really happy with that. Great times to be had up here. Walking back through the central park, we'll come on to the episode we did recently, or the last one really, with the Brutalist Plaza and the zoo. With lots of blue dramatic after that lights here, which actually really coincides with the lights we have on the monorail, doesn't it? Which is the first time I'm realising that, really. But here it's mixes of green cities, some of the new parks, and lots of tourist attraction, of course, with the zoo being the main feature here. On just absolutely wild terrain. I'll just jump back to daytime here because it's quite dark in the zoo. There we go. Yeah, we'll also check out the ridership now, which is still really quiet. Literally 0. It couldn't be any quieter, in fact. Which I'm still quite surprised by because there's a lot of residential here. And shops and whatnot. But just no one seems to want to actually use this monorail stop for some reason. Which is really surprising, because I thought they would. Yeah. Maybe there's a connection issue as to why it's not particularly working very well. But that does sit up here. With tons of layers, as you can see, which is the point I wanted to come back to daytime for. And there is actually a gorgeous nighttime view from here you guys probably wouldn't have seen. So I'll showcase it off. So as you loop up through the zoo park here, you come back down and get this big, dramatic, blue-lit monorail which the monorail police did come after me for. But I'm so happy with how that looks. Doesn't that just look awesome? It's like teal lit monorail right above the forest canopy. Of course, we'll have a build around it in the next few episodes as well. But just in the foreground of the airport. Isn't that just awesome? I just love that. So cool. Monorail police won't be happy, but it's a small price to pay. This then brings us on to the bow tie intersection, which is a really nice little traffic flow system. Again, just to run over this for those that don't know, or perhaps missed it or didn't understand the build. So your bow tie intersection. Well, I would have just said the left turn is removed, but that bus just taken it. That's because... Oh yeah, okay, that's quite interesting. I need to change that. I didn't realise the bus would ignore the turning lanes here because he's doing that. So to get you to stop that, I'm going to have to get you to stop there. Which is fine. Yeah, I hadn't actually realised the bus would ignore traffic manager commands. But there you go, we can change that now. So yeah, the way this works is the left turn, again similar to the continuous flow, is removed from the central intersection, reducing the conflict. And instead they must take the left turn by turning right to U-turn on the roundabout to then go that direction. This is the same process for every direction here as well. So no left turn, straight on, U-turn, come this way. Same with this one, no left turn, turn right, U-turn, and then this way. And that just repeats and mirrors on all four sides of the bow tie intersection. So really handy traffic flow system. We won't see the true extent of this, I think, until we have builds the other side of the gorge. Because there's not really any reason for anyone to come down here right now, of course. But one day I think we'll come to really reap the benefits of our bow tie intersection here. Really nice. Then of course this doesn't go anywhere. The tourist arch chills out on a pretty nice viewpoint into the city here. This will be a very busy arterial at one point, I imagine. But the Central Park Hill is still, I guess, 60% done, probably. So we've got 2 or 3 builds to fill the rest of this space around here. Which will really mark the start of the 25 tower projects once that's done, as we move into the rest of the space around the edge of downtown Illium. Which brings us into our final district over here. The airport, factory, and residential sectors of the downtown. So our regional airport here is very much based on London City Airport, referencing that in the episode. Even with the outsides of the airport as well, the factory and row home configurations on the front of the terminal are pretty much exactly what we see in London City. So quite a lot of fun, and a really good example of how Google Earth can inspire you in CS for a particular build, in this instance, a smaller single runway regional airport. So we'll approach this from the top of the hill on the edge of the downtown commercial district here, where we saw that quiet train station. Coming into the coupler system, which again, don't forget, is National Highway Road. In fact, it actually goes back to National Highway, just a little bit down here, which is what it used to be like all the way through the city centre, of course. We are getting some traffic idiocy here. I think it's just people doing a dance, isn't it? Yeah, that's all that's causing that. Let's go ahead and give them the traffic manager command. I'm pretty sure I configured this roundabout over here. Let's go ahead and select our junctions here. Just tell these people to not dance. There you go. That should clear it up a little. Get them all through. But yeah. Blaze again here to respect Illium's terrain. Feeding people under. With a really nice landscaped, sandy, overgrown coupler system through the city centre. And then more emerging downtowns, and in particular row home configurations in this sector. Again, really referencing what we saw in London to bring this live together. School campus tucked in here. Different combinations, even some fusings of emerging downtowns here on the corner as well. Really nice views back to a pretty dense city centre over here. More row homes, which then all peels off into a multi-factory district, which is using the household plastics factory, I think, soft paper, and the sneaker all fused together with water treatment, regular industry, and garbage processing, with lots of industrial detail, including some of our little vehicle props we've recently downloaded. which is a mod that lets you just place all the vehicles in the game as props, which is super handy for, you know, delivery areas like this, and then also train yards like this as well. So unfortunately they're not available in Find It for some reason, but yeah, the ability to place vehicles can make a big difference to your detail, and I think the exact reference is right here, right? Nice little delivery yards before this really dissipates into kind of sandy, overgrown industrial wasteland by highway, train line, airport. Which I think is quite an important visual to bring into the city. You know, to have some overgrown space, you know, because not every inch of every city is developed. There are bits of wasteland. So something to factor in, I think. You get a real sense of how that sits here against all the networks. Big fan of it. As a cargo train arrives for our factory district. There it goes. Which, of course, all of this having great views to the airport across the rail line. Which, again, as I mentioned, referenced by London City, using some of our path and airport apron tricks to develop more significant taxiway spaces. Of course, it's all non-functional, but it does make a difference in my eyes. Airport runway towers, I'm always a big fan of a runway pier. Anytime I can do it, I absolutely will. With hangars, and it's all small and medium planes over this way. Nothing too bad. And bringing this all the way down to our little district over here, where we have a toll gate indicating obviously some kind of security presence. So the general public doesn't have access to a live airfield. With more planes and detailing with fencing and pathways around the edge. Which completes a pretty massive airport for a regional one, and I think the other airport itself is going to sit out on the peninsula, the big international complex. It will likely occupy some space around here again. Haven't given too much thought to exactly what that looks like just yet, given just still how much we have to do, given that's 30 episodes of progress right here. We've not really filled a lot of this. Now, a lot of the terrain over here on this left side is quite gnarly, so it won't be as dense as the rest of downtown Illium. But there's still quite a bit of space to fill out here. So it's not quite done yet. I think with some of our gnarly, most challenging terrain yet to come in the Central Park area here, around the foot of the massively elevated monorail. And the back in here does concrete delivery service detailing. Orientation of warehouses against major arterial roads, again, is always something to consider, isn't it? And this will be such a busy train line one day as well. Like we mentioned, one day we'll be able to feed all of these lines out to the orbital towns once they actually exist, because they currently don't. So we'll have loads of trains rushing up and down here one day, but for right now it's just the intercity trains taking tourists into the city centre. So we're really yet to see the full extent of Illium's train infrastructure come to fruition, because we just currently have nowhere to send them due to tile boundary limits and whatnot. He didn't drop anyone off then, did he? You okay, train? No one using you? Would have paint up. But that does it, everyone. That's every district of Illium we've built over the last 30 episodes. And I'd just like to take a moment at the end of a showcase review recap episode to say thank you so much for all of the support, both on YouTube membership and Patreon for Cities Skylines 1 content. I know I'm one of the few channels still making consistent Cities 1 content every week, but honestly this game, this sandbox, is like my Minecraft or The Sims 4. It's something I can turn my hand to time and time again without ever really getting bored, and the visuals and the fact I can get a decent frame rate whilst also recording, which Cities 2 really doesn't lend itself well to, especially once you're over 100,000 population. Really starts to stutter and struggle. So maybe we'll get there one day with CS2 with further optimizations from Iceflake, but for right now, I still just adore Cities 1 and think I will for many more years. It's just such a complete, wonderful sandbox city builder for me, and I think this level of mods is probably still my favourite city building experience available in video games. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know down below what your favourite district of Illium is. And as always, an enormous shout out to the YouTube members and patrons that bankroll these videos, with a roll call to our golden patronex: Casino, Spartan Angel, Michael W, Wolfo, Phoenix MD, Blythe, Jamin, Great Z, Bryce Johnson, Sean, and Trevor Larson. There's so many of you. Thank you so much. There's so many names. Appreciate you all. If you want to get involved in that, links are in the video description. Otherwise, enjoy the cinematics of some of my personal favourite shots of Illium. And I'll see you next time as we carry on ploughing away on the never-ending Downtown project. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.